Hello, welcome to another live session. Welcome, 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 welcome. You are welcome. Welcome, welcome. Okay, I am going to be starting just about now. Welcome, Manuel. Thanks for joining, man. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, some people might be joining later, so I'll just start now, and some will obviously have the recording. So, today I'm going to be speaking about budgeting, and that is to help you plan for the new year. So, as the year is coming to an end, I feel like it's very important that you get your finance right, first of all, by planning ahead. You probably still have some unfinished business with 2021, but planning, the ability for you to plan ahead, it's important as a step into 2022, even if you still have things that you need to settle in for 2021. And like most people would say, not planning, if you're not planning, then you're planning to fail. So there is no two ways about planning. It's either you're planning or you're planning to fail. So, just before I go deep down into budgeting, I just want to take us back a little to the idea of planning in the first place before we start looking at financial planning, which budgeting is part of. So, why do you need to plan, and what's the importance of plan? And the way I want to explain it is using um, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We know that human needs are numerous, first of all, and secondly, not everybody are on the same um, needs level. Some people are struggling with physiological needs, or what some people call basic needs, like food, water, water, shelter, and clothing. So those are physiological needs. Then some people are in the second level, which is the safety needs, that consist of security and safety. Um, what that would mean is you are a bit concerned that if things don't go well, you probably fall to the first level, your physiological need, which is food and shelter and clothing, or housing and clothing, which are your basic needs. So your security need or safety need, you're saying if things don't go well, you're concerned about your personal safety. You probably fall below just living from hand to mouth, which is the first level, physiological needs. Then the third level is the belongingness or the love need. At this level, people need intimate relationship and friendship. That's another one. Then the fourth level is the esteem need, prestige, and feeling of accomplishment. When you feel like you have accomplished something. Um, then the fifth level is the self-actualization level, where you feel you are living your full potential and you are living your best life, really. You feel fulfilled with the kind of things that you do. Okay, so I've just run through those five steps of Maslow needs hierarchy, so that in your mind you would know exactly where you are, so that when you're budgeting or planning, you can aspire to be in the next band. It's possible that you're experiencing a combination of levels. So you have experienced physiological needs and safety need at the same time. Sometimes you get belongingness, a self-esteem need, or self-actualization need. It's possible that you fluctuate around all of these needs. It's very, very much possible. But it's important that you know the dominant level that you're in, so that when you are planning, you are conscious of your level, and that's helping you to plan to a higher level in your budgeting. Depending on the level you are in life, you might just be starting out in your career and you feel like um, you are still at the bottom. There is no the plan is to ensure that you are moving. You have left the basic need of food, shelter, and clothing or security. You have moved on to a higher need of self-actualization, because that's where you want to be, and that's really where you should be planning from. But if you still find yourself in the basic needs level of security or physiological needs, then you need to be conscious to start planning on how to secure that level with your budget, and uh, have a full understanding of your circumstance before um, you plan for the year. So, as part of what I do personal finance coaching, which involves sitting with one-on-one with people and breaking down their financial plan. Most are not 1 year, most are lifetime career financial plan. So we can have, of course, a year's plan, 2 years plan, rolling plan, and sometimes 10 years or even more. Some sessions we have up to a lifetime plan, career plan, financial planning for a whole lifetime. So, in that session, we go one on one, we break the income down, break all the expenses down, and plan step by step through that session. And most of my the people that I have coached through that session, they find it very useful. So it might be useful for you as well to think about having a personal one-on-one session where you can have your own life financial plan detailed, so that when you are making decisions, because everything you do in this life revolves around money some way, except you inherited a whole lot of money and yeah, you don't have a money problem, but even at that, you still have a money problem of managing it. So I would encourage you to know exactly how you need to do this. So yeah, I'll recommend that one-on-one, but we'll still go through some of the things we discuss in that one-on-one session with you, so that you can have an idea of how to do it yourself if you feel like you can do it yourself. And at the end of this session, I'd encourage you to I'll post this video on my page, and you just comment to say that you attended the live session, because I'll say it, and I promise to send you a template. I'll send you a template, a budget planner that you can use for your budget for 2022. Okay, so let's go deep dive. What I plan to do tonight is to show you how you can budget for just 2022. We're not going into a lifetime budgeting, so we're just looking at the next 12 months. Of course, this could help you in future plans when you want to do maybe a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan or even a lifetime plan for your budget. But for this session, we're just looking at 2022 and how that budgeting now can help you manage your finance in 2022. So I have started by analyzing the needs, hierarchy of needs. So in this 2022 budget, we're just going to look through the things that you should be looking at from your income and how you should budget your expenses and how they all add up to your final result, to see if you earn more than you spend or you spend more than you earn. It's usually encouraged to spend less than you earn. That way you have some level of comfort. You put yourself under undue pressure if you spend more than you earn. So first of all, just a brief introduction into how you should budget. Most people budget monthly, which is wrong, or should I say, which is not encouraged. You mostly spend your money daily or weekly as best than monthly, so it will be wrong to budget monthly instead of weekly. Weekly is still better. I know it might be difficult to budget daily, but weekly you can almost tell what you spend your money on weekly, and that could help you budget better. Even if you earn monthly income, you can break that monthly income down to bits or weekly or divide by 4, so you know how much potential money you earn every week, and can help you budget better, so you know how much comes in and how much you spend every week. Another point to note, for most or some people pay their rent annually. Depending on how much you pay, it might be a huge burden if you decide to budget your rent annually. It's better to break it down again into weekly or monthly. You know how much you're going to pay at the end of the year if your rent is annual. So, and you know how many weeks you have in a year, so you can break your rent into weekly or best monthly. So you take out some money every month for the rent. So we'll just go straight quickly to the income. Now, to give you a structure, your budget is your income and your expenditures. So your income is any place you get money from. Primarily, I would expect you to get money from your salary if you are a worker, an employee, or if you're self-employed, of course, from your business. But yeah, so these are the things that you should know. Even if you are a salary earner, it's also possible that you have other sources of income. So I'm going to talk through the sources of income and how to capture all of that sources. Then we'll look at the expenses. I have a very detailed list of expenses that you can budget weekly, monthly, or annually if you prefer. But you'll be surprised that it'll cover almost everything that you can think of that you spend money on. So yeah, so I want you to follow as we go on. So for your income, I'll send you an Excel sheet like I said. Just comment your email address after the session when I post this video on the page. Just post your email address there, then I'll forward you a copy of this budget planner. So for income, you probably earn income from employment or you're self-employed. That's the first source of income. And like I mentioned before, you should budget according to your spending. Even if you earn money monthly, you don't need to budget your income monthly. You can budget it weekly by dividing your monthly income by 12. That way it helps you spread out your weekly spending. You match that to your weekly income. So you can have income from employment or self-employment if that's your own case. You can have income from investments or savings. I was speaking to someone yesterday and they mentioned that they earn some money from savings, which is good. So you have to capture everything. Remember, there is no for in accounting we have what we call the prudency rule. You underestimate income and overestimate expense. What that means is if you are not sure about an income, don't put it down as potential income. But if you foresee that you might incur an expense, put it down as an expense. I hope that explains it. So for income, you only put in what you are sure of. Don't put in what you think will come in. No, you budget per what you have and your potential. If you know that there is a history of change in salary that comes in around June, for example, and you know how much your salary will change, you can budget with that. But if there is a bonus that is dependent on performance or some conditions that you can't control, then don't budget for it. There is no need, because you are not sure of the exact amount. If you have it at hand, then you can have a plan for it. There's some monies that come in once in a year. It's not free money. There is nothing like free money. So if money comes in, you have to have a plan for it. If you're not sure, then you can put a lower amount. If in the past 3 years you have received, let's say in dollars, you have received $500, an average of $500 in the last 3 years, and you're trying to budget for your bonus, what you should put down should be 500. Even if it has been like 300, 600, 400, that like that. You take the average and put that down. Don't put 700 because you feel like maybe you're performing better this year. No, so put in income sources that you are definitely sure will happen. So employment income, income from savings or investments. If you are expecting income from pension, remember what you're budgeting on. Again, it's cash, not say annuity or things that are paid into a pension pot that you won't have access to till maybe at retirement, except you are retired and you're expecting an annuity that comes in via pension. So if you don't have income from annuity like that, then that's not an income, so you skip that part. There's other benefits that you could get, maybe tax credit or income support, depending on the country that you're in. You might get those kind of benefits, and remember again, they have to benefit that are sure, not what you think would come. Then So I have just given a breakdown of different income and how you expect them to come in. There are some people that have other sources of income apart from savings and investments, or annuity, or benefits, or gifts from family. There are people that get gifts from family. So if there is has been a precedent for gifts that come in from family, then you can budget for those. So things that you have experienced before and you know that this year is going to be the same, you can budget for those. But things that you are not too sure of, again, don't bother putting them in. When they come, you can put in to your budget plan and have, maybe you can put them in savings or investments. If they don't form part of your daily expenditure. So maybe some people call that free money. But of course, if you see it as free money, you probably squander it. But if you see it as money that you could use for maybe to augment your savings or investment, that could be a better plan than seeing it as free money. So I've talked about income from employment, savings and investment, annuity or pension, depending on your status, benefits, tax credit, depending on the country that you're in, or child benefits that you're getting or get from family or friends that come in. Then other sources of income that you might have. So you can have as many sources, just ensure that you're capturing the right amount of income. So in this first half of my presentation, I've talked about income and how you should capture income weekly based on your spending rather than um, making them a monthly budget, income budget. So yes, divide your monthly income by four and ensure that you're capturing it properly. The second bit is expenditure. This is where the work is really, because most people know how much they earn is a fixed amount, but it's where the money goes that's the problem. So you have been working every year, you're working, you earn a huge amount, but you don't really know where the money goes, and you wonder, what am I really working for? This whole year, you have earned a particular amount every month, but you can look back from January till date and you can't really account for something that you have done. That's because you haven't been able to track your expenses properly. You think you're making money, you have big money, or you're just spending without being accountable for your spending. So the bulk of the work in budgeting is in your expense because your income is almost free, sorry, fixed. But your expenses is where you should focus on. And the trick, again, like I mentioned, is ensuring that you are capturing it weekly instead of monthly, and capturing all the expense that you incur as much as possible as you can. Make sure you put them in. If there are expenses that you are not too sure of, put a higher amount of those expenses in your budget instead of a lower, because that way you make provisions and save if the eventual expense is lower. But if you have put in a lower amount, you now need to start looking for how to balance it and looking for urgent 2K to balance your budget, then you are setting yourself up for disaster. So it's important that you do this at the very beginning before the year starts, so before you earn your first income. Even though your income is coming at the end of January, if you're a salary earner, you start spending money from 1st of January. So it's usually encouraged to have that budget in so that as you spend from January, you are capturing what you're spending money on. So I'll run through a series of potential expense that I think are generic. Then you can fill in by yourself. If you have an Excel, you can note it, or a notepad. Just note some of these expenses that I'll be mentioning that might apply to you. Again, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I can share with you you can modify it and take it to your own special um um situation, and at the end of the day you have a summary of your total income and total expense and see how you're doing with your plan. If you're consistent with what I'm discussing now and the template I'll share with you, I'm sure by the end of December you'll be able to look back and say, oh, I have made this much in a year and this is what I spent my money on. You can track it because you have made plan. So the biggest expense that most people have, except you paid cash for your house, is rent or mortgage, depending on where you are. So that's usually the chunk of monthly expense or annual expense that most people have. Again, depending on where you live, some people's holidays expense is actually more than the rent in a year. So again, this is depending on where you live, what country you live in. So what I mentioned before was, even if you pay your rent annually, try to break it down to weekly or monthly. Because if you're breaking your income to weekly, it makes sense to break your annual rent or monthly rent to weekly. That way you know the portion of your income that you're paying to rent. Some people tell you that, oh, your rent shouldn't be more than 3 months of your salary in a year. That's possible in some countries, but in some other countries it's totally not possible. Some people pay as high as 50% of their annual salary on rent. So that'll be like 6 months. So you know what works for you, depending on your situation and where you really like to live. Some people say cut your coat according to your clothes. So rent is a controllable expense based on taste. But if there's a fixed amount that you have planned to spend on rent based on where you stay, then try to budget it monthly or weekly or at least monthly to match your income, and take that money out every month or every week as part of your plan. Even if you pay your rent annually, take it out monthly. So at the end of the year, you're not stranded because the amount is so much and you need to pay for the new year. So yeah, plan that one. Another thing that some people take out as part of their rent is insurance. Remember, I'm just mentioning all the expenses that you could be spending money on. So insurance is one of those. Depending on the country that you live in, this might be compulsory, and some countries it's really not important. But something you can think about if you need to take, even if it's not compulsory in your country, it's a very good thing that you take out insurance for the building if you own it, or if you have it as a mortgage, or content if you don't own it and you feel like the things inside the house are things that you would miss if you lose them to whatever means, so you insure them. So you budget for your insurance. Usually insurance are usually annual, but some insurance company can break it down for you monthly. So again, depending on what you're doing, if you're breaking your income to weekly, break your insurance to weekly or monthly, depending on your situation. Again, if you have bank charges that you need to pay, you budget for that. Budget for bank charges. Budget for it. Budget for their taxes that you might need to budget for. For example, if you live in the UK, you'll be required to pay council tax, so we budget for that one. There are some people that pay for TV, tax. Those are things that you can budget for. Again, you can budget for water. If you provide your own water, you know how much you spend annually for repairs or things like that. So you can budget for that. Electricity, you don't, there's no way you provide your own electricity for the whole year. So you provide for electricity, break it down to monthly. Oil, household maintenance. This could be groceries or things uh, that you spend money on in your house. So you know an average of how much you spend monthly or weekly. You mostly will buy the things weekly so that they are still fresh when you're making them. So you budget for those. Home phone or internet, mobile phone. These are things that you use. So you budget for them. Most people use monthly plan, so you budget for monthly plan. That's one bit. Some people have insurance, maybe travel insurance if they're going on vacation. Some have car insurance. Some have mortgage protection. Depending on your situation, you need to plan for that. Just note these things that I'm explaining. Your situation might be different. Some might you might not need them. But I'm just going through all the list so that you'll be familiar with the things that you should be budgeting for. Um, Eat, drink, or whatever that you do, you need to budget for them. If you like eating out, for example, you know how often you do it. If it's weekly, you know how much you spend per meal. You budget for weekly um, eating out. If it's household shopping for food, like I mentioned before, you budget for that mostly weekly. Drinks at home, like you buy an average of how much you spend in a week, you can put that in and budget for that. It will run through, um, if you do that per week on an Excel, the one I will share with you, it will run through the year and you know how much you spend on drink for the house. If you like drinking out, maybe go to the pub with friends and all of that, you can also have a budget. It's important that you have a budget for all of this so that you don't overspend. Even if you go out with friends to have drinks, you know your limit. So your budget will guide you. You don't overspend, even when you're having fun with friends. So meals at work, these are things that you could budget for as well. If you don't take your lunch to work, budget for it. So technically, we're capturing everything that you need to spend money on week in, week out. Depending on your mode of transport, if you need to go out to work, for example, you need to take a bus or a coach or taxi. You need to budget. You know how much you spend every day for transport to your work or to your um, wherever you're going. You know how much you spend on an average per week. If you break it down per week, it helps you plan better. So weekly transport, put it there. If it's car, you know how much you maybe you already have a car, but you know how much you spend for maintaining that car. You put it in. You know how much insurance you pay. You know how much car tax you pay. Um, Petrol cost, depending on how you travel, you need to put that in to your spreadsheet. Again, parking, that's something that you could also plan for. Um, if you have loan, you can put in the repayment, how much you pay per month or per week for your loan. Depending on the type of loan, the credit card loan, if they're mortgage loan, if they're car loan, personal loan, you know how much you're paying back every months. So you break it down again per week or per month if you prefer, and ensure that it's captured. Another bit that most people put last is your savings or investment. And some people have said, depending on how much you earn, again, there's really no rule to a particular percent you should put on savings or investment. It depends on how much you earn. If you earn a large amount every month, some people can afford to save 50% of what they earn, while some people can only afford to save 20% or 10% because of their income and the amount they spend on expense. So there are compulsory expenses that you can't do without: the house you stay in, the clothes you wear, and food. So those things are basic that you can't do without. It's after you have covered those three things that you can start thinking about investment or savings. Because if you don't have yourself sorted, then you have problems trying to save. But there's no amount that you have that you earn that you can't save from. That's another angle to look at it. So even if it's 10% you're able to save every month, if you're consistent over time, it will add up at the end of the year and you can use it to do something tangible. There are some investment that you would want to do, but because of the low amount you save, you're not able to do them at once. You can also build up your savings gradually, and at the end of 6 months, you'd have had something tangible that you can invest on. I'm not talking about investment today, I'm just talking about budgeting. So, so savings is something that you should carve out from your income, monthly income and annual income, and tell yourself, this is how much I want to be putting out for savings or investment. And like some people will say, it's good to diversify your savings and investment so you don't have it in one place. But it's also important that you don't put your, except it's savings where you can uh, except it's savings for emergency where you can easily get access to the cash. If you're not saving for emergency, put the money into an investment that will yield a higher return than a low return investment. So a portion of your income should be in your savings, and it should be part of the plan. I'm emphasizing this because this is actually what goes into your future. Every other thing that you are budgeting are going to be expended and go out, but this one is planning for the future. So, depending on how much you are, but at least 10% of what you earn every month should go into savings and investment. You can buy shares, you can put in additional pension, and in most countries, additional pensions are tax exempt, so you get some tax benefit by contributing additional pension. So you can do in regular savings, you can have series of investments that you're doing, you can buy shares. Shares are good because they give you two types of income: capital appreciation and cash flows. So if you put in money in investment, you get, and in buying shares, you get those type of um, return. Then lump sum savings, those income that you're not sure of then goes to your long-term savings. You call them free income then, but they're not free income. You know they will come, and but you don't know how much. So you budgeted a low amount at the beginning of the year. So when the money finally comes in and you see that they're more than what you anticipated, those are lump sum opportunity for long-term savings that you can put in and take advantage of the low savings you have been doing all year to ensure that at the end of the period you have something tangible that you have saved up. I spent a lot of time on savings and investment again because I feel like it's going to contribute more to your future than all the things that you are spending money on um, that you're expending. Then there's another thing that you need to look at: family. For family, there are a couple of things depending on your status. If you're married or have children, things that you can spend money on: childcare or play games, babysitting arrangements, children travels, laundry or dry cleaning, depending on situation again. Um, Nappies, baby extras, pocket money they give to children, school meals, school trips, pet food if you have pets for them, and all of that. So these are the things that you can plan for your family. Don't miss out anything. I'm taking my time to explain everything because they are important and things that potentially take money away from our income. So it's important that you put them in. Then, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. That's what they say. So you also plan for fun and frolics. So Netflix and chills, put that in. Um, some say IT, computer, antivirus. If you need to buy another gadget or phone, have it in your budget. Some people change their iPhone every year, which is to them it's what they like. So that's totally fine, but put it in your budget. So if you need to change your phone every year, you ensure that you plan every month or every week on how much you're putting aside for that gadget. If you need to buy the latest sleek laptop, put it in your budget. What are the hobbies that you have that you spend money on? Have a budget for it. Uh, Shopping for fun, maybe whatever makes you happy, put it in there. Some people enjoy books, music, or movies. You go to cinemas. Those are things that you can put in a budget. Family day out and all of that. So you're putting not just serious stuff, investment savings. You're also making plans for fun. So you budget for fun and you put it all in your budget. Then another important part of your budget is your health and beauty, which includes your fitness or gym or sports that you do. You budget for it. If you're taking out a private medical insurance, if your employer is not taking that out for you, then you budget for it. Dental insurance, healthcare, beauty treatment, haircut, you put all in. This might look basic. Um, Before now, I used to cut my hair like every week. So the amount might look small, but because you do it every week, it accumulates to a whole lot at the end of a year. So if you don't make plans for it, it could be a huge amount in your income that could affect your income. So no matter how small you think the thing is, put it in your budget. Your gym, put it in. Then clothing, that's another aspect that you can budget in. People, some people buy clothes per season. So in summer, they buy summer clothes. In winter, in spring, autumn, they have different clothing that they buy. And there are shops that you can go for this season. So you can put in your quarterly, if it's per quarter. Of course, you're breaking your budget down to months and weekly, but you know how much you're going to spend at the end of the quarter for clothing, so you can put that aside and make plans to buy your clothes per season. Just to mention, so if you do clothes per season, you're able to recycle and donate those clothes to charity and get new ones. There's nothing bad in that, but just plan for it if that's your style. Then educational courses. This is important if you're still schooling or doing a master's program. Put the schooling cost in your budget. If there are courses that you take monthly or you're planning to start taking some courses in later in 2022, Maybe you don't like buying books, but you want to listen to video teachings or audio books. This is where you put them in because it's a self-development. So the two I want to emphasize is savings and investments in your budget. Then for your own personal development, put that in your budget. So you don't feel like you're doing something bad when you're buying a teaching material, you're buying one of my books for a so-so amount and you feel like you're spending so much. But because it's in your budget and you know it's for your own personal development, then you can have that in your budget and plan for it. Um, there are some big things that you can also plan for, the big one-offs. Christmas, that happens once in a year, but of course, there's a lot of expense that go out during that period. You don't want to wait till Christmas before you start spending, so you can start budgeting from the beginning of January for 30 December that you want to do. Then summer holidays, if you plan to travel out of your country to another country, you put that in your budget. And say you want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 for your annual budget, you break that down to how much you need to save every week or every month for that adventure. Some people go out for winter holidays if they want, their birthdays or friends' birthdays. You can make a plan to say, "Oh, I'll send a gift to my friends on their birthdays." You put that in your budget. Um, Weddings. If you're still single and you feel like you might be getting married soon, it doesn't have to be the next year, but because weddings can be very expensive, it doesn't matter if you have a sponsor, you might still need to have your own money and or make some contribution. Or if there are weddings that you feel like your friends are having, then you can start planning for that so that when their wedding come you have what to give. Some people buy clothes for other people so you can plan for that during this one big off. Um, there's one I did mention, but just what we call in the black community black tax. This you can include either in this one big ops or in the family section where you put in a certain amount from your income as a black tax expense, the money you give to family or friends or parents. You put them in your budget. Again, like I tell most people, if you don't have it in your budget, you don't have money. If someone is asking you for money that you don't have planned in your budget, you don't have it because you have done a budget and you see what you need to spend money on. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So be quite strict with the plans. I'm going through all of this. This is like the longest teaching I've had since I started this session because it's important that you are able to track all your expenses, all, and trying to be accurate as you budget them so that when they come, you are ready and you're prepared to spend. There are some that are odd um, items that you need to budget for charity, donations. Some people have this as part of their budget. Some people pay tithes. Some buy magazines. These are things that you can do. You put them in your budget. Because if you don't have them in your budget, you don't have money for it. Um, okay, just before I round up on this, I would like to um, say that the money you're putting in your budget is your net income, not gross. So even if the employment letter says you earn 50k dollars, for example, you don't put 50k dollars in your budget. You put in how much comes into your account every month. That's what you put in your budget. So your net income, not your gross income. So that's all on budgeting. I have taken my time to break down the expense or potential expenses, that you could have. There's one off that I didn't mention. I think I should mention it because that's also important. Funeral expense. I know people watching or listening are young people. You're not planning to die soon, which is fine, but you don't want a situation where um, someone dies and the family is now left to the burden of taking the cost. Funeral expense can be a huge cost. So some people plan for it and they make monthly budget or weekly budget to take care of their costs. Some people go to the extent of breaking down the plan and writing as part of their will that this is what they want their funeral to look like, the type of music they should play, and all of that. And they make plans and they put in the money down. So if you don't like stressing people and you don't want to unnecessarily burden people with your problem, this is something that you can plan for and budget. If it's $10,000 that is the going rate in your country or even less, you can easily pay out your funeral cost and put that money aside. Whoever needs to spend it, maybe part of your will. You are never too young to do that. I know someone in my former place of work. If she was too old, she would be 23, and she was already saving for her funeral expense and the things that she wanted taken care of when she was gone. So yeah, something to think about. So yeah, I've put in all of this so that I can capture your total expense, and I'm willing to share this Excel with you. Just drop in your email address when I post this video on my page, and I'll send you this. You can go through it, modify it to suit your position, and make sure you capture it. At the end of the day, just ensure that your income is more than your expenditure. That is a very important key. If at the end of the day you see that your expense is more than your income, then that's the problem. You need to go back to your expense to see how you can cut down some of the things that you might not need, maybe from leisure or from donations or black tax. You can reduce all of that to suit your income level. You can't spend more than you earn. It's not done. Otherwise, you depend on other people to solve your problem, which is what I think you don't want to do by coming here. So at the end of this, you have another sheet in the Excel template I'll share with you to show a summary of your income in a year and the total expenditure that you get and whatever is left. Now, if your budget shows a surplus, it doesn't mean that you have free money. You don't need to, but you don't need to have a balanced budget where your income equates to your expense 100%. It's always good to have leverage where your income is more than your expense, especially for personal finance. Except you are going to take up a loan if you have a deficit budget where you need to augment the deficit with a loan. Then you now have to redo your expenditure to cover that repayment plan on the loan and the interest that could be accruing on it. So, but as much as you can, let your income be more than your expense. Yeah, I think that's where I'll stop. This has been the longest live session I've had, and I had to take my time to go through all of this so that you can see the benefit of budgeting and ensuring that you have everything covered. If you have any question, you can put in. I still have a couple of minutes to be with you. So if you have any question at all you want me to answer that relates to budgeting, feel free to add it on the comment section. stay here and I'll answer. So I'll take a few minutes before I end this live session. Remember to put a comment on the video when I post it later with your email address, and I'll send you a budget planner that you can use to plan for 2022. Thank you so much for joining the session. And as a plan for 2022, you might want to get copies of my books. I've written 2 books this year: Succeeding in Your Career and Let's Talk About Money. And some of the things I'm sharing on budgeting, I've talked about them in my book, so you might want to get the book to know other things that might be relevant to personal finance. I talked about other important things like the things I talked about last week. Expanding your income source or side hustle, how to build a side hustle, and how to have multiple streams of income. So I shared some of that last week. You can go back to the video to watch them, or you can get a copy of my book to see the points that I have made. Thank you so much again. If you want a one-on-one session on personal finance, we can go through a life plan for your finance. We can break that down to an annual plan, or a 5-year plan, or a 10-year plan, or a lifetime plan for your finance. So if you want to get a house, for example, we'll plan it. If you want to get married, all your big expense, your small expense, everything, we'll capture that on the one-on-one session. So feel free to send me a DM and I would respond, and we can have an arrangement where we take that. I also do career counseling, so feel free to tell people about that one-on-one session. I do CV reviews, cover letter, personal statements. I do all of that. So feel free to reach out to anything that I have mentioned. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you next week.